What's happening, Shredder Nation? Happy Tuesday! I am Heather Sica Leonard, head of the ER Shred Board, always coming to you in true Tuesday night fashion. I am super excited tonight because I get to be here with the head of our Health Professionals Board, Susan Rothman, bringing you all of the goodness and all of the information that we constantly need to hear. Before we get into this call, I'm going to make sure we see the disclaimers are in the ticker that we don't treat, cure, prevent any diseases. We are just talking to you about the shred. We want to talk to you about common questions. We want to talk to you about balance and some of the things that are happening within our bodies. So, hi, Susan, my friend.
Hi, honey. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this tonight. There's so many new people, so many new questions. So we're going to lay it out.
Yeah. So, what's your number one tip for all those new questions?
Follow the script. Follow the script and use the guides. But that's what I want to do tonight is like lay more of the foundation of why you can't have this, that, and the other. Do you want to talk some about the guides before I go?
So the guides are the most important part of the protocol. Susan says follow the script. We have it laid out for you. When you're in Facebook on a mobile device, you'll see little gray buttons popping up below the banner, but above the discussion. If you can't find that, if your book face is being book face, that's what I like to call it when it doesn't cooperate with us, right? Our technical difficulties when it doesn't like us. Go to the magnifying glass above the header and type in the word welcome. And you'll see a welcome post with the ER Shred logo and the hashtag share the shred below it. In that post, it links you directly to the guides and it will give you all of that important information. So start there. Guides 1 and 2 are critical to start. Guide 5 is huge, especially rolling into our next set of cleanse days that kick off tomorrow. Guide 8 is where Susan brings all of her goodness. There's so much information in there around Holistic Corner that you can learn about ingredients of products. You can learn about natural solutions for things. There's so much great content in there that Susan's always bringing to us on a regular basis. That's Guide 8 to make sure you have it. But literally, there's so much information out there. Take the time and get your education. But yes, let's go into that. Why is it that the 11-day protocol is this very simple road to empowerment, as you so lovingly called it, which that video is in Guide 6, Tips and Tricks?
Yeah, I thought tonight what I'd like to do is springboard off that video, because what I talked about basically is the road narrows so that you can get to this point where it opens back up from this place of empowerment. And what's happened with ER Shred, for whatever, I don't think that Sean Escobar knew when he started this what he had tapped into. That's been something that's been honed as we've all, gone through this protocol. For a while there, I was calling it the happiness factor, the confidence factor, like what is happening to these people, and, seeing all these health improvements as well. So there are gifts in the road narrowing. And what's happened is it's thought out to where it's a gift for all of you. This isn't for us, just to keep it simple. And for a lot of us, we come in here, whatever our goals are, with, let's call it broken thermostats, right? The hypothalamus of our brain controls your appetite, your cravings. And this is why I encourage you to listen to the Road to Empowerment, because there's so many things that can trigger us. Not just foods, but in the food. So we want to stay away from sweet. For some people, it might be crunch. You're healing the gut. All the food culprits are gone. Not only that, but the way we're combining the foods. Your body can function like this true machine and metabolize it and turn it into the stuff that you are made of and the good stuff that you're made out of. So, yeah.
So that sounds to me like you're talking about the road narrowing to get to baseline. And
Absolutely.
I know that's a word that we throw around a lot. And I don't know that everybody really understands what we're talking about when we want to get there. It's really getting our bodies back to that. But how do we get there? And I think that's what people aren't connecting.
Well, it's a true reset. Your body is an amazing machine. And so what happens is when you pull all these toxic foods, these chemicals, these food additives, all the combination, there's so many things that are going on. You're overburdening the body. You're flooding the body with nutrition. Your cellular energy comes up, detoxification pathways open. This is why so many people are talking about lifted brain fog, more clarity, creativity. Every time I do 2 cleanse days, I get this spurt of creativity. So baseline is just removing everything so that you give yourself the opportunity to find your unique balance and whatever that means to you. And it is key because if the thermostat is broken, if we have food cravings and our cells are not flexible, how do you know what's talking to you when you say, well, I can have that? Right? So let's say it's a vegetable, but that could be, or let's say someone's doing the protocol and they're craving blueberries. Is that a true that their body wants that, or are they looking for sugar in a disguise? So we can be tricked. But when we get to baseline, it's this really pure place of what's next for you. And isn't the goal in this? I mean, I know for me, at the end of the day, I want to get rid of myths, old belief systems, and be free and get away from the right and wrong of food. What's good for you may not be good for me.
Yes. And what I'm hearing too is, those cravings and things that we talk about, right? Not everyone is going to kick those in their first 11 days.
No.
For some, it goes deep. So when people start talking about adding things in, I know you and I are very mindful of that when we see people talking about that, when they're talking about it right off the bat and they're saying, well, yes, I haven't necessarily. That's where I love Susan's video on the road to empowerment, because it really is important to take that time and really hold yourself accountable until you can kick those cravings. Yeah. Because then you'll know what your body is saying to you. And I'm sorry to say, for some of you, the food journey might take a little longer because of what the food history was, right? What you're going into before these 11 days. Everyone starts from a different place, and that's okay. There's no judgment on that. But what I think the biggest takeaway I'm hearing from you is, if I don't have control over that yet, I shouldn't look at adding new things yet.
That too. And it really is, it's a slippery quality when you're dealing with food addictions and, where your metabolic health isn't flexible. And, just if you think about all the bacteria in the gut, right? And I did a talk on this, all the bacteria in the gut. Well, those bacteria have an energy. So your good bacteria and your bad bacteria that's alive, it has an energy. It can confuse you and trick you. We see a lot of questions about sugar substitutes. Now, for me, I've been doing this a while. I do use a really high quality sugar alcohol, xylitol, which I do okay with. And it's one little teaspoon in my coffee. That's it, right? Mm-hmm. But for someone else, that can create all kinds of cravings. And artificial sweeteners I read this today and I love it. It's the methadone of sugar addiction. So what happens is, and that's a powerful statement, right? Yeah. So what happens is it calms the craving, but it really doesn't, because you're looking for something that you're not going to get there. And so if you keep starting the protocol and backsliding and starting and stopping, that's when you say to yourself, well, let me get to baseline and pull everything. And there's also very powerful things that go on physiologically in the basic protocol as well, which I'll get into that when you.
And that call you're referencing about gut health, that was our first conversation like this, which I was so excited to do. That link is found in Guide 8 as well. I know where I posted it. It's on our YouTube channel, and the YouTube link can be found in Guide 8.
See, Heather knows where everything is. I don't know where everything is. But the road to empowerment's in mindset, right?
It's in Guide 6, Tips and Tricks.
Guide 6. Okay, great. Got it.
Because I think what sparked that conversation is, while there are shred-approved foods and snacks, there's still a little bit of processing to those foods. So like when we noticed that want for crunch, maybe there's something else, and maybe you want to avoid the pork rinds for a little while, right?
Yeah.
Because, or the bacon.
Bacon? No.
I know. Well, sometimes I feel like I need to lay off of the bacon because of how it's cured. Even though it's nitrate and sugar-free, there's other things in there too. So I would rather have bacon as my side than my main dish, like my snacks. You know, when you had that call, I remember like reflecting on that myself and said, hold up, let me stop, let me process. And I decided, I know bacon. Brad, there was a conversation about you eating a whole pound in a day. I remember that. But I remember you did that, and I stopped and I interrupted myself. And so for that week of shredding, I made meatballs with bone broth and pink salt. And that was what I turned to for my snack. And I felt differently in a good way because I had eliminated that component. So that narrowing, you know, even though I've been around 17 months now, I think.
Yeah.
We're still on this journey to find things.
I'll share what happened to me, and this is part of the empowerment, right? So I had autoimmune issues. So when I was diagnosed, I'm well today, in remission. But when I was diagnosed, the first things I was told is stop eating gluten, which I did, and stop eating dairy, which I did. So over the years, I would have a little goat cheese, a little feta, and then after ER shred, I got really cocky because my gut was healed. I could eat things. When I brought things back, or I had a little indulgence, I didn't have reactions. I felt good. So I started experimenting with cheeses, and it went well for a while. But just recently, it backfired. Well, today I had cheese in the house. I actually brought it to the office, and I threw some away because what happened is I realized I got into an addictive pattern with the cheese, and I knew to do that 2 months ago. Yesterday is when I got rid of the cheese. So what I offer up to all of our shredders is, you already know if there's a question that is this serving me and you think that answer might be no, you're probably right. And this is a journey to metabolic flexibility. And the depth here is so, it's like divinely inspired. So I want to speak to some of that and some of the questions in the group about health and stuff. Do you want me to go ahead?
Go for it.
Okay, so I wanted to speak a little bit about cholesterol, right? And we need to be compliant in this group. And a lot of you have seen Fat Fiction. And if you haven't, I really encourage you to do it. So for me, there was a really great thread on cholesterol. It was a great question. There was a lot of great information on this. Well, mostly great information on that thread and interesting perspectives, right, on cholesterol. So if we look up and out at society and what we're doing for cholesterol, we can see clearly it's an epic fail, because heart disease is on the rise, and so is type 2 diabetes. So whatever foolery is going on over there, it's not getting us where we want to go. And but yet we are so entrained on focusing on that number. So what I want to speak to about that, when you're in the group, and I encourage you to ask questions and to share what's on whatever your truth might be. But when you put up a post about, these are my numbers, right? And you get all kinds of comments, but none of them have any value, because there's a backstory there, and cholesterol does not define. Like for me, if I were to go and my cholesterol shot up to 280, right? But my HDL was good. My LDL was basically good. My triglycerides were good. I have no worries about that. This is only one number. And actually, elevated cholesterol is a symptom. Okay. So let's just go there for a minute. So if I was going to pay attention to one number, it would be blood sugar. And if you watch Fat Fiction, because I want to be compliant, so I'm going to quote Dr. Hyman, let him take the responsibility. But that whole thing alludes to the blood sugar issue, which is the bottom line. So cholesterol comes as a consequence of that when your cells no longer will talk to one another. So that is the number to look at. So when we do ER shred and we follow baseline or any diet that pulls carbohydrates, whether they be vegetables or the starches, what happens is it's a happy time for your cells. It knows what to do with that nutrition. And some people come to this program with oxidative stress, inflammation, toxicity, and mitochondrial dysfunction. Those are the people that over time are going to have the most powerful benefit. And we know we have a lot of people that have shared lowering of blood sugar and hemoglobin A1C. And this is why, because what happens is your cells get rigid, right?
Right.
And what we're doing here is we're coaxing them to become flexible, to talk to one another, for pathways to open up. One is the pathway to disease and the other is the pathway to health. And I guess my point here is when we look at cholesterol just in and of itself, it really doesn't tell you a lot. Triglycerides are way more powerful. And the question on the thread, I think her triglycerides were 60, which is beautiful. I have no worries about that. So I just wanted to put it out there that there's so many myths around cholesterol.
And Fat Fiction can be found for free on YouTube. It's also on Amazon Prime. It's referenced in Guide 9, I believe. Jesse also put a really great podcast in that as well for you to listen to around it. Because even I and I believe Sharon Pesky put a really good video talking in, because there's different kinds of LDL. And I didn't really know this ahead of time because science is not my thing. I'm a music educator. But LDL is not a bad thing if it's the fluffy kind.
Right. So that's another thing. A lot of people are also, it's a post of a basic lipid panel where you can do an advanced panel for particle size. And of course, the most definitive would be a coronary calcium score, which is a CAT scan. I think it's $99. Your doctor can order it. And that will tell you if you have coronary artery plaquing.
Yeah. Didn't Bob post his results of that?
Yes.
And he had like no plaque buildup,
yes.
And it was just blown away.
And we see that a lot. So Bob is a great example of that because it was something he was concerned about, right? Mm-hmm. Cholesterol numbers, but his coronary risk was 0, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what. So we ER shredders, let's question everything, and then also I wanted to talk about bringing this into a truly a holistic model, which is balanced. So you have, so we have people focusing in on their cardiovascular system, and you have your endocrine system, and you have your nervous system, and you have your intestinal system. Well, a physician I heard speak a while back, he coined the psycho-neuro-immuno-endocrine system. They should have never been separated. And it's all the same thing because stress, what you think, psycho, right? What you think, your belief systems, your stress level, how you come at the world. We talk about gratitude in this group. All of that creates a template that affects your nervous system, which runs the show. Your nervous system will affect your hormones, cortisol, leptin, ghrelin, all these different hormones in the body. So then your gut is your second brain and the ground floor of your immune system. So the reason I'm putting this out is because if we look at it in its holism, then we kind of lose. And when you really understand that piece, these pieces and parts kind of slip away where we're entrained to believe that we're defined by symptoms. You see on commercials today all these drugs ending in Mumab, for like MS, for eczema, for psoriasis. And yes, those drugs suppress the immune system, but where did this come from? And then when you look at the holism, there's so many testimonials out there of people that basic supplements, changing their diet, and they walk away from conditions like that. We're seeing that in the group. So I wanted to highlight that tonight, that there's way more going on here.
Well, and I think that's something that the board was talking about, when the board was first formed, that we didn't really think that all of this was going to go. I don't think any of us had the foresight that this was going to go as deep as it is. A lot of people, let's be honest, people are coming here for weight loss and to feel better, right? That's 90% of our community. That's why they came here. They wanted a solution. But as they've been with us on this journey for as long as they have, we have seen their whole person come to life.
Absolutely.
It's not about defining numbers. You were talking about cholesterol numbers. Those numbers don't define us. The scale doesn't define us. The inches don't define us. I'm good with supporting the blood sugar number is the only number that matters. The rest of it doesn't. It's how you feel. It's what your energy is. It's how you're handling life when it's throwing us chaos, right?
And truly defining what is health. What is health? And maybe it's time we rewrite that, script. We can all look out and see there are a lot of things in our society that are a bit broken. Maybe we've gone just far enough in our advancements to see maybe we need to turn around and go in another direction, and
pendulum back.
Yeah. And then when you look at health, and you see that, diabetes, we know, is epidemic, heart disease, osteoporosis,
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's. Well, that's insulin resistance. Yeah, insulin resistance of the brain. So then when we bring that home, then isn't the most important things that your cells talk to one another, remain flexible. For me, if I went to the doctor and my cholesterol was 280, I would be like, well, that's interesting. But you tell me my hemoglobin A1C or my glucose is up, that's a spin. And I know Jesse feels the same way with me on this. That's a tailspin. Whatever I'm doing, I'm going to switch it up because I'm not going down that road. And then, of course, the payoff to all of this is aging fabulously. For a lot of people, not having aches and pains, having sustained energy all day long, sleeping well. This also impacts on this way of eating, living. There impacts on fertility problems, women going through their change. And then hormonal balance. So no, we're not going to claim anything, right? But just make complete common sense. Blood sugar is balanced. You can watch Fat Fiction. They start with that, they end with it. So blood sugar is balanced. And they have all these patients with all these conditions coming into these doctors. And the conditions are like, gone, 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 check, check, check. And then, so does that mean that if your blood sugar is balanced and you're doing all of this, that you could never get sick? No. But if you do develop a problem, your chances of recovery are way better. And then at the end of the day, as I lay this out, my umbrella for all of this is balance. So when blood sugar is balanced, the energetic of that is harmony, homeostasis, holism, holistic, the entire body. And that in and of itself springboards into balance. And then when you were talking earlier, Heather, about cravings, the cravings kind of disappear. Then what you're left with is this thing up here talking to you, telling you it wants this, that, and the other. And if you tap in, it's like, well, not really, no. Yeah.
And I think that's so important is tapping in up here.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the journey.
Because your body can handle it. Your body was designed to handle it. That was something that I commented earlier on somebody. They're nervous going into the 2 cleanse days. I get it if it's your first round of it.
Yeah.
But you have to flip your language. And that's another challenge. Not only question everything, but flip your language, because how you speak to yourself is also part of that whole system, right?
Yes.
If you put negativity into your system,
That's the
even through your
cycle.
own words,
Yeah.
it links through all of those.
Mm-hmm. It sets the stage.
It really does. And it's amazing how quickly these systems can shift and react to each other. Like you and I were talking before the call, right?
On a
I've been
dime.
doing this ridiculous, crazy painting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I go work out tonight and I can smell it coming out of me. But my system was working to be able to filter it. So as these things are coming up, it's like, well, that's not, oh, wait, this is what happened. But I have the awareness now because of
Yes.
what I have paid attention to here. I'm now understanding. Again, guys, I have a master's degree in educational leadership. My bachelor's is in music education. I have nothing in science behind here. I have learned by showing up in this community, by going through it. Well, for me, it was building, but going through all of the resources that are in the guides and then taking the information in and digging further into it. Because, like you said, if we question everything, right?
Yeah.
The information's out there. I hate to tell you, what we're doing is not brand new, but it's hidden from the media because there's no big pharma money in it, in my opinion.
Yeah. And
there.
there's so much value and richness in understanding the house that you live in. And we've been taught to, dumb down that voice and not use our own common sense, which can be such a friend to us. Let's talk a little about detoxification pathways. And what you're describing with the paint is actually another marker of metabolic flexibility. Why? Why is it metabolic flexibility? Because what it's telling us is that your cells are happy, they're flexible, they're malleable, they're talking to one another. They have something in the body that needs to go, it goes. So, you're active, that's a big part of it. And then our detoxification pathways, well, we know going to the bathroom, elimination, that we have a lot of different things happen in ER shred with stool, and that's part of the protocol. Your skin is a detoxification pathway. I was telling Heather before we started my very first 11-day cleanse. I had to do a lecture to the nursing program at FAU at a university on herbal medicine, and I stunk. It lasted one day. And it never happened. I think it happened once again on an ER shred. So your skin is a detoxification pathway, and dry skin brushing can be fabulous with that. Your lungs.
Guide 8, dry skin brushing, guide 8.
So, and then we talk about cleanse breath, right? So that's another thing. So those are our lungs, our skin. I'm forgetting something, our bowels. And our kidneys, right? I remember years ago when I was working on healing from the autoimmune stuff and I was using supportive products, I smelled heavy metals in my urine. So this is the house you live in, and how it serves you by getting rid of these things. And what we're doing is assisting all those processes. And then on the back end, not putting in these foods that your body just knows intuitively what to do with. It's so funny. I said what happened to me with the cheese, and I got myself into this little habit. Like, I'm seriously, this is so pathetic. But I would come home at like 4:00 and I would want a salad. And with that little salad, I would put the cheese. And I've been walking around bloated from that. It's out of the picture for 2 days. My energy is better. I feel clearer. The bloating's gone. That's 48 hours.
So there's two points I want to make here. Number one, notice how we are openly talking about our bodily functions because it's a normal part of the process. We don't shy away from that around here. Like, totally normal for us to talk about bodily functions. Don't be afraid to talk about bodily functions, because if something's happening and doesn't feel right, it's probably normal. Obviously, you want to seek an MD if you're really that concerned about it as a medical issue. But we talk about poop all the time, and it's okay. It's normal to talk about. And journaling, like, you were mindful that 2 days of taking the cheese out, you were able to do that. If you are not that aware of yourself and you're starting your journey and you're starting to identify this, I highly, highly recommend journaling, because as you add foods in, you may not realize it and what it's doing to you. But if you journal about your mood, you journal about your cravings, you journal about your bloat, right? If you're aware of your body. But if you weren't that in tune with yourself and you were journaling, I feel bloated today, eventually you're going to be able to follow that journal back to identify that it was the cheese, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't have that intuitively yet, do yourself the favor, do the homework, journal about it, so you are really mapping out your blueprint and you have a clear path of what it looks like, because it's all connected. Mood, sleep, right? You can tell, like, the night, if I have, a hard cider one night, I notice it immediately in my sleep. My Fitbit will show the nights that I had a cider. Because I can see it in my sleep pattern.
Sugar will disturb sleep. And what you're seeing there is it's disturbing your nervous system. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and that's why that psychoneural, I love that, because it is all connected. And, you get a negative thought, someone hurts you, you get a negative thought, your nervous system goes into alert, your hormones go out of balance. It's like this whole cascade. So depending on whether or not you're metabolically flexible, where your health is, how you take care of yourself, that can either take you down a road or you can circumvent that road. And, that's another thing about the community, is where we have that, that supportive culture. We talk about gratitude, move every day, very important with eating this way, that you're moving every day, because what we're talking about is like a Paleolithic or ancestral nutrition kind of paradigm. Well, our ancestors were active. They weren't sitting on the couch all day chewing on meat and bacon. We got to keep it moving. So that's part of the protocol as well, right?
And I believe there's another post about fitness as food. Or fitness is health.
Oh, yeah. Fitness is fuel.
Fitness is fuel.
Yeah.
And I knew it was something along those lines. I was getting there.
That was an interesting one when I found that.
Yeah, that was really interesting to read. And then I talked about it yesterday, right? I got home from kickboxing. Find the movement that speaks to you. Absolutely. Don't make it a job, because that's not going to help you. Because then you're going to be in this negative space that, oh, do I have to go? And you're going to dread it. If you're still getting used to moving, like I recommended, find a pool, right? I think water fitness is great for those who have joint discomfort and they're just getting started. Just moving 10 to 20 minutes is what's recommended in the 11 days, and build your way in. I've tried the whole, chain gyms. That's not for me. I found my local spot. That's a family that lives in town owning their gym. And tonight's class, we giggled more than we did anything. It was during our core part. I'm like, oh, we're laughing too hard to do our sit-ups. But it's a double core workout. And I think that's part of it too, because that sense of community while I was exercising and moving just kept me in this positive place, whereas it wasn't somebody else prescribing me a workout and I was dreading being there, because it's not going to benefit you if you're not enjoying what you're doing.
Right? Yeah, everyone has to find what works for them, and we all have something. One of my closest friends, for her, it's dance, and not exercise dance, going out dancing. So we can do that again.
Can't wait.
Yeah. And then any other questions in the group that we wanted to talk about? The teas were already addressed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Remember some of those teas can be culprits, so you want to be really, really, really careful.
Yeah.
And
then, well, I was going to say, as you go with the shred, what happens is it's all about quality. With everything. And so, as you go, your mindset changes. I think somebody shared in the group that they had meat that wasn't grass fed and they had a terrible time with it. But then that's happened to me actually.
Mhm.
And then, but the grass fed was fine. So all of those things are little learning experiences for you.
Absolutely. And there are times in your journey where you're going to find those things. And once you've gotten yourself to your baseline and you've identified some of the things that are okay, then it's your choice on future shreds on what you choose to do. Like right now, I'm having my traditional medicines healthy cycle tea that you recommended to me because it's got the raspberry leaf and the spearmint, which have not had issues for me to help me balance my hormones right now because it's needed. But again, I got myself there. I went with a quality, reputable company. And this is like what I go to when I need it. But I've also cleared it first.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm grabbing this and grabbing that and a little of this. I can't do that.
Yeah. And, part of that's part of the journey, experimenting, having fun with it. At some point, one of our next calls, I want to get into the ancient wisdom and the holistic model of really what's going on with these products, with some of the products that we're using. I know for me, I know it's a cult favorite, Ionic Supreme. Me and Sean have talked about this. It's a very special product. And I've been an herbalist for, I don't know, like 30 years or something. Seems like forever. Well, it is, I guess. And Ionic Supreme is probably one of the most special formulations I have ever seen in my entire career. But after I did ER Shred, and there was a time in my life when I was in autoimmune crisis, my thyroid was messed up. I was in adrenal fatigue. My cortisol was very low, and I needed products like Ionic Supreme to rebuild my body. But today, after doing ER Shred, I have Ionic Supreme in the refrigerator, and I said to myself, do I need Ionic Supreme? Well, the answer to that is no, I don't need that product anymore, even if it's a very stressful day. That being said, that's different for every single person, but supplements fit in that mix as well. Everything fits in the mix. And really, Heather, I was think, because whenever I do something like this, I want to add value. So I look at a lot of different things. Like today, I uncovered this book, Sweet Death, that I haven't looked at since, I don't know, 2000. And I love that, his glycomics and some of the things I spoke about. So I go through things to bring it to the group. But at the end of the day, it's always about freedom and balance. And it's like we want, sometimes in the group we want someone to tell us what to do. And the responsibility has been, it's like, we're marketed that we don't have the power. I mean, in my nursing career, I actually had a patient. I'm trying to think what was going on with them. And we said, massage her intestines, to massage them. She goes, I can touch them. Like outer on her stomach.
Yeah.
I mean, that says something right there. Like, oh, it hurts, don't touch it. Let someone else touch it. I don't get it. It's time for us to take this back.
And I think that too is part of the empowerment of what we do.
Take that.
Is that while we're going to give you a harsh suck it up, buttercup, no, follow the protocol in your first 11 days. Beyond that, when you come to us and say, what should I do next? We're going to flip that question back to you. And I see this in education as well. We need to start trusting our instincts, and we need to trust our gut. And on this journey, when we heal our gut, then what our gut's telling us is usually pretty spot on. So you need to narrow the road, find your empowerment in your baseline, then journal through your blueprint and trust your gut, because it does know what to do. It really does when it's functioning properly.
Right. That's the trick. And, to our people that have, come in with, health issues and out of balance and frustration. And, there can be, trying to lose weight and get healthy. It can be traumatic. Not everyone's treated well by health professionals. I certainly wasn't, and for some of us, there's a lot of energy around all of that. But what we've laid out here is for you. And I've never seen a more supportive community. So this is a safe space for you to, and truly, what are we doing? We're finding our way home. Yeah. I have a lot of people reach out to me, and you guys are rock stars. The people that reach out to me, you already know the answer. Like I'll communicate in a certain kind of way where you tell me what you think you should do. And I don't think I've had one person be wrong. And so maybe that's it, that we get to validate one another. Hey, you're moving in the right direction.
And maybe that's what it takes right now, because I think we mislead ourselves because we go with what's in mainstream. Mm-hmm. Mainstream media is telling us the pyramid is this way. Now we have flipped the pyramid. So now we're in this limbo of confusion almost until we get to that path. So we're looking for validation to come to this new path. That's not what the mainstream media is. It's that flipped triangle from fat fiction mm-hmm. that we follow here in the ER Shed protocol. So yeah, I agree with you. I think the questioning in the beginning is looking for validation until you have the trust yes. to validate yourself.
And that comes back to why look at the freaking guides. Because it's there for you to help. Look, I still do it to a certain extent. Like I made eggs in bacon grease. I never did that. So when I do it, I think to myself, seriously? So we've all been indoctrinated in this way. So yes, and so thank God we're 25,000 of us, right? Moving strong. And then we see a number like this week. Our person saw a number, and that frightened her. We want it to be a certain kind of way, and so many things can affect that, right? So, and I don't want people to feel like they can't share that, because there was so much value in that. Thread and a lot of takeaways and different perceptions. And the other thing I'm seeing out there, which is different in the last 2 years with our patients, is more and more people are hip to ancestral eating. And we get a lot of patients in looking to change a coronary calcium score. And a coronary calcium score, it measures how much plaquing is in your arteries. It's a definitive number that they can see it. Mm-hmm. So, and we're watching people do that, right? So they're coming in for that. And you would think with all the foolery out there that they would be doing plant-based. Some are, but many, many of them are not, which I find very interesting. It gives me hope that the world is changing, because it needs to change. The medical profession, the business is too good. It's too good. And, so it's up to people like us to take back control and pay it forward. And then I know so many of you can speak to this, that you do this protocol, you go out in your life and people are like, oh, what's going on over here? Because it is visual. And I've always said that about our fulfillment company. It has a look, it's visual, and that's health. That's what health looks like, vitality.
And that's our goal. And I truly believe that our community who keeps sharing it forward is going to be able to drive this mission to flip it and to take back our health, because we know food has the power to help us do that. If we feed our bodies have the power to do that if they're fueled properly. And that's what the ER Shred protocol is empowering us all to do.
I posted the other day in the group, it's like every bite you take, you're either moving towards disease or away from it. And I just want to highlight, because it's a perfect example, truly, in our community. Jessica Tessier, is that how you say her last name? And her daughter. So Jessica started, something happened. Her daughter hopped on. it spread it that's what, you know, that I'm trying to find the word, like something valuable like that, and shared in that way.
It came from true inspiration. It came from true gratitude. You know, reading Jennifer's post about getting her mom back.
Oh my God.
I
right?
still have chills
Yes.
about that.
So that's what we're talking about.
That's the vulnerability and authenticity of what comes to life when people find themselves and their voices come back. And then people see it, they feel it, the energy and the aura and the vibration around Shredders, you can just feel it and you can sense it. And then it just pours out that you can't help but be inspired and want in. And that's that story. Oh, and I'm so excited. I get to meet them both in person.
Oh yeah,
on April 30th. That's my best birthday present ever. I'm going to get to hug Jessica, Jennifer, Coleman, and Jesse. He'll be there too. But
yeah,
I
chickened out. I chickened out on that.
So, Kaylee, I get a Kaylee hug, so that works for it. And we get to come together. Now, this is the other piece of the community. These, I feel like we have built real relationships. Look at you and I. We talk every day. Mm-hmm. We may have met one time in person in Vegas in 2016 at the Body Alive photo, but I don't know if we actually met or not.
Oh, no. I don't think so.
But look at us, right? Mm-hmm. I've met Sean and Crystal in person one time.
Oh, wow.
One time. Yeah. But the relationships that have come, it is a true community of support. Mm-hmm. Because our goal as a community, and I know I'm speaking on behalf of the board, is to empower people to be authentic, real, and have true, lasting health.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else on your heart you want to share, my friend?
Just, the community, and, for me, witnessing, people finding a place to share, to give, to come alive. We see, as the board, we see you guys, we see you, and we see evolutions, and changes. And it's just so rewarding. And then, of course, it also solidifies that we are on the right path. So, for me, I would close with, let's start getting away from extremes. It's either this way or that way. Let's follow the protocol. Let's pay attention. Pause, ask. Please watch my video, The Journey to Empowerment. And if you're struggling on and off with results up and down, I hope that you find it within you to just follow the script, and, get you what you want, right? That's what it is. We want all of you to get what you want. Actually, we want to surprise you, because we know that you're going to get more than you expected. Mm-hmm. And all of you guys, cleansing, no, we're finishing up. We're
finishing tomorrow.
Yeah, so cleanse days tomorrow.
Yep. Today is day 9. We've got 2 days of cleanses left on the group shred.
Yep.
And yeah, we want you to be able to love yourself. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, comes and accept yourself. Mm-hmm. I feel like on my journey, I have come to allow myself grace. I have come to accept myself and love myself and stop defining myself by ridiculous numbers. How many of you watch me smash that scale?
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool.
It's not, I'm no longer defined that way. And I don't think that I would have found this journey without this protocol in this community.
Yeah, same here. I mean, this has been such a wonderful experience. Even doing the lives, I would have never, ever done that before ER Shred. So I don't know what happened there, but something happened. And I just want to close with, because I find it very powerful, that psycho, neuro, immune, endocrine system. And, remember that your body, your cells hear every word you say, every thought you think. And of course, we don't have control over that, but how we perceive things we do. And it kind of sets the stage to remember that behind the scenes, everything in here is talking to itself, and you want everything listening clearly to the best of our ability. And your body will take you where you need to go. It can handle a lot of crap. For a lot of us, we're still standing, right? So I know I had a past, but we're still standing and healthy. And so I'm looking forward to hearing the results on Friday.
It's going to be an amazing week.
Yep.
So a reminder, tomorrow night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific is the Come Alive Zoom call. I believe it will be hosted by our Captain Caveman. If not, you'll see somebody from the board, because we love that call. And that call is so important with how wide and how far the ER shred goes. Then on Thursday, if you have signed up, it's the Shredder's Way. We have 2 weeks left of training with Lenny Evans. Yeah. If you are looking for that call, make sure you have gone to the Shredders Unite group, www.shreddersunite.com, to get you into that Facebook group. Make sure you sign up in that Google form, and I will get you all the materials. But with that being said, everyone, have a wonderful night. Have a great cleanse, and we'll catch you all on the next one.
Thank you, Heather.